Hello, good afternoon. This is Kenny. I hope you're having a good day. Um, if you see my face for the first time, please subscribe to my channel. If you are been watching without subscribing, please subscribe. And after watching this video, or even in the process of watching it, if you love my content, and if you've seen my other videos and you love them, please do well by subscribing, liking, sharing, because we have lots more to bring to you. So today I'll go straight to my topic of the day is home ownership in America. Home ownership in America. Is it a blessing or a curse? I don't know. Maybe after this video you can answer it yourself. So, home ownership. I think before COVID hit, home ownership was not so common. It was something people just did without shouting about it. It wasn't something, it wasn't an in thing. Let me put it that way. It wasn't an in thing. So during COVID, we all know what messed the economy up. There was too much money in circulation. That was what messed the economy up. A lot of people that didn't have any business, they went and collected PPP. A lot of people did fraudulent things. They got money. People got 40,000, 80,000, 100,000, different kinds of thousands. Even me that had business, that I've been filing with my business since 2018, I did not get a dime. It was when I said, oh, this thing is real, oh, let me do it. That was when the SBA shut down. So people got money. People that never knew they could handle such money, they got big amount of money, and there was a big demand for real estate. People got money that they could use for down payment, and there were so many people who wanted to buy houses. That was what caused the inflation. People were buying cars, people were buying houses, people were buying things they never thought they could afford. So you know the law of demand and supply now. That messed the market up. People were offering more than the list price of the houses. To cut the long story short, home prices started rising because the demand was too high, because people started placing more than it was listed for. During COVID, it depends on location. Homes doubled in value. Let me not say in value. Home doubled in prices. That was because people were willing to offer more than it was listed for. So automatically, you know how this works. If a house down the street sells for 300,000, your house is jumping to 300,000 too. So it affects every house in the area. 2019 December, I actually planned to buy a house. But 2020 January came. I already went to see the realtor. We already discussed. The person asked me which area did I want. I've always searched Google for best places to live in Georgia, and Johns Creek was the first that always popped up. So I already had Johns Creek in mind, that I wanted to live in Johns Creek, simply because I didn't want to raise my child in where we were. I don't want to mention any street name now. I mean, any city now. So something happened. I changed my mind about buying my house in 2020 January. So instead, I opened my business. So fortunately, I found my store at Johns Creek too, which was gradually pushing me towards where I wanted to buy my house. Fast forward to 2022, I bought my house. Something led to something, blah, blah, blah. I bought my house. And like I say every time, if something is not making sense to me, I will not continue doing it. I'm not one person that does something because people do it. No, it has to make sense. So when I wanted to buy my house, houses were expensive. I was putting more in Johns Creek. I can't say for any other place now. In Johns Creek, you have to add money. You have to you have to offer more than the list price for you to get the house. You have to. So I bought one small house. It was like a cubicle. I bought it for 357,000. That money can afford you a mansion in some other places. But Johns Creek is the most expensive place in Georgia. Especially 30022, the zip code I bought my house, is the most expensive zip code in Georgia. So the only thing I could afford there was a cubicle. So I bought the house. Fast forward, if you did not buy your house before June of 2022, forget it. Your own buying decision does not make any sense. If you didn't buy your house before June of 2022, you did not make a wise decision. And I'm sorry that whatever decision you have made is haunting you right now, and you are probably swallowing it. You can't speak up. I'm sorry you're going through that, but the truth be told, we did not make a smart decision. So now, before April of 2022, interest rate was still dancing around 3.75, 3.8, 3.9. April, it hit 4. In April, it hit 4%. 4.5, 4.75, like that. It started going up at a crazy rate. But we Nigerians, home ownership is a great achievement to us. Where we came from, if you've not built a house, you've not achieved anything. So we brought the same mentality to America. Americans, if they can afford it, they do it. If they can't afford it, they keep renting. But some Americans think like us. They believe that it's better you own your own home instead of chopping some landlord shit, instead of wasting your money on rent. Some people see rent as a waste. No, it's not a waste. You're not wasting your money. You're giving somebody your money to put a roof over your head. That is not a waste of money. And I'm going to state the benefit of renting over buying in this video. So, fast forward, I bought my house. I started paying my mortgage. And one thing about me, I just don't do things and forget about it. No, I want to see what happens to what I do. So, paying my mortgage, I pay attention to the breakdown of my mortgage. I paid close attention to it. I was paying $2,200. I actually paid 10% down. 10% down. And my loan amount was, I think my loan amount was 318,000. Yeah, 318,000. And I was paying 22, about 21 something, close to 22. $490 goes to my principal. The rest of it goes to my interest, taxes, insurance, mortgage insurance. That's where the rest of it goes. So the question is, if I was to rent a house in Johns Creek and I put $2,200 to rent a house, the value I'm going to get is going to be way more than the house I bought in terms of space in the same Johns Creek. I'm talking about then in 2022. So that being said, apart from me getting more space, I'm not going to worry myself about something broke in my house. I will call the landlord to come and fix it, and they will come and fix it. So that's another thing. I don't have to worry myself about HOA. So now some of you might want to argue that landlord will increase your rent every year. Yes, your mortgage goes up every year too, because your taxes do not stay the same. Your insurance do not stay the same. When they say you have a fixed rate, the only thing that is fixed is your interest rate. Insurance, HOA, and taxes, they go up every year, which means your mortgage total is going to go up every year. That's that. So now my second argument about home ownership in 2022, in this present time, in this present economy, now we are at 6.75 interest rate. It's been dancing between 6.4, 7.2. Between 6.4 and 7.2. A lot of people own their homes right now and they do not understand what they are doing. A lot of people. The only thing they know is they own their home. And let me shock you, you do not own that house. Until your house is paid in full, you do not own it. It is the bank's property. If you miss 3 payments, your load will be outside. Your house is going on foreclosure. Everything you have ever paid on that house is gone. If you miss 3 payments, everything you ever paid is gone. That is that. So stop calling it your home. It's not your home to start with. It is the bank's property. So a lot of people have been house poor. When I say house poor, after you bought your house, you became broke. You can't do the things you used to do anymore. A lot of people are house broke or house poor, as they call it. Then the first thing I noticed when I bought my house, because when I bought my house, I wasn't satisfied with the kind of house I bought, but that is the location I want. The location was non-negotiable for me, but the house I bought was not my preference in terms of the design, the size. I love my neighborhood, but the design and the size was not my preference. I had a big yard. So there was something I was telling myself that it's okay, this is a starter home. It's a starter home. By the time I want to buy the next one, I will buy something better. But guess what? Once your rent, I will give an example. Take for instance, a lot of people probably were paying 1,500 a rent and they want to buy a house. They don't run their numbers. They just jump to, oh, if I can pay 15,000 on a rental property, why can't I pay 4,000 at my own house? They call it my own house. Yeah, you are paying 1,500 in rent, but you want to go and pay 4,000 at your own house. The first question you ask yourself is, can you conveniently pay that 4,000? It is not your house. If you put 4,000 in that house every month and something happens, your 4K per month is gone. So the first question you ask yourself is, can this 4,000, is it convenient for you? Or whatever it is. So minus that, let's assume that it's even convenient. You have doubled up on your housing allowance. Let me put it that way. Whether rent or mortgage is your housing allowance. So you have gone from 1,500 to about 2,500 or 3,000 or 4,000, whatever the case is right now. So what I want to tell you about starter home, when I said it was a starter home for me, is before you bought that house, you already had enough money saved up. So you had money for down payments, you had money for closing, and that money is gone to the home buying process. Now I'm convincing myself that it was a starter home, and then the reality dawned on me that the way I was able to save before I bought my house is no longer possible because my expenses had gone up due to home ownership. I was given an instance of somebody jumping from 1,500 to 4,000. That is 2,500 difference. Assuming your income was okay for you to save 2,500 before you bought your house, now that you have gone up on your housing allowance, your savings will reduce. Is either your savings reduce or you no longer have anything to save. So the dream of owning the second house might end up as a dream that will never come true. Because how do you save up for the new down payment? How do you save up for the next closing cost? You are now a home owner. You can't get benefit of a first-time home buyer again. So that was my first reality, that a second home might not come up. My situation was not so bad because my interest rate was in the 4s. So now I want to talk about people that bought their house in the late 2022, 2023, 2024, and 2025. Your situation is worse. And this is the reason. Your interest rate is high And whatever you are paying on your house, you can never pay that in rent in the same neighborhood. It's not possible. Go and check and come and comment here that Kenny, this is a lie. And I will prove you wrong. I have instances. Someone bought their house at 345. They paid down payment, about 7.5% down. Long story short, loan is 320. Loan amount 320. Mortgage is 2700. 300 is going to principal. So the reason I'm saying the things that go to principal is plus and minus. Whatever is going to your principal is the only equity you're gaining. Because in this present time, if you don't own your house in Johns Creek, you don't own your house in Alpharetta, your house is not gaining any equity. Just forget it. House prices are coming down. It's either they are coming down or they are stagnant. Home prices are not going up anymore. So if you are not in the sought after locations, if you're looking at what you're saying on Zillow, think about it again. You're deceiving yourself. Your home is not gaining any equity. I'm speaking about Georgia now. I don't know about other states. So the analysis I was giving, 300 is going to equity out of 2700. You have 2400 you're giving them monthly on interest, insurance, taxes, mortgage insurance. HOA is additional 185 for the person. So that is 2885 monthly, and only 300 is going to your equity towards your principal. That means you are dashing them 2550. You are dashing them 2585 monthly. In the same neighborhood, they are renting for 2200. So why don't you rent in that neighborhood for 2200 and be saving your 685 by yourself instead of saying you are building one stupid equity by owning a home? And guess what? If you rent at 2200, if anything breaks in that house, you will call your landlord. Landlord will come and fix it. But as a homeowner that is already paying 2885, anything breaks in your house, you are fixing it yourself. You cannot call the bank that truly owns the home to come and fix it for you. No. HOA that is collecting 185 from you, it's little or nothing they can fix for you in your house. Just things that concern the yard is what they will fix for you. And that is the yard they cover. In my own case, HOA only covers the front. They don't cover the back. So, I have another case. This person pays 5,230 in mortgage. Only 599 goes to their principal. 4,700 goes to interest and some other things. Tell me, what sense does that make? So now we are always so quick to say, oh, it's my house. Yeah, it's your house. But does it make sense for you to be house broke when you can always rent at a cheaper rate, not have the burden of fixing things yourself, and having the flexibility to move around? If you think this landlord is bad, oh, I don't really love my neighborhood. As a homeowner, if you don't love your neighborhood, you are stuck with that neighborhood. You must live there. It's either you live there or you move out and rent it out. And when you rent it out, you might end up running at a loss because you might end up adding money from your pocket to pay the mortgage, which makes no sense. Then I've mentioned you're not gaining any equity. You don't have the flexibility to move around. You have to fix your property yourself if anything happens. Another thing about home ownership in this present age and time, I always tell people when they ask me, because I've got a lot of questions from people, and some people I know want to buy. I have by myself, out of my kind heart, advised them not to buy it. It's not a wise decision. But you know, our people are always very quick to conclude that, oh, because she doesn't want me to be successful. She doesn't want me to achieve. She doesn't want me to be a homeowner. That's why she's saying I shouldn't buy. It's okay. Experience is the best teacher. That is, if you even understand what you're doing, that's when you can learn from it. Because someone has mentioned before that, oh, if you know how much I've gained as equity on my home, and I laugh. A lot of people use Zillow to measure their equity. My dear, Zillow will shock you. On the day you want to sell that house, Zillow will tell you that they are not the equity determiners. Appraiser will determine your equity at the end of the day. Buyers will determine what your house is worth at the end of the day. It's not Zillow. It's not One Home. It's not Realtor.com. So, another thing I want to say, you see all those your small money that is going towards your principal, they will still help you give it game over when you want to sell that property. So let's say, for instance, maybe, okay, I was giving the example that I had a loan of 318,000 in 2 years. After paying 2,200 monthly, I was able to reduce my principal by 10,000. Yeah, 500 per month, 6,000 per year. That's 12,000 in 2 years. I was only able to reduce my principal to 308. Yeah, I'm sure it wasn't 306. 308. So now, in your mind, you would have been helping me to calculate. Okay, I think another thing that deceives people is, I bought my house for 357. I sold it for 385. In your mind, you'll be helping me to calculate that I have made 28,000 in profit. Yeah, that's 28,000 in profit. But guess what? I put 20,000 in that house to update it to my taste. So subtract 20 from 28, remaining 8K, right? Don't forget that when I was buying, I paid closing costs of about $13,000. Subtract 13,000 from 8, I'm at -5 already. So now, when I sold it, I paid closing cost of 22,000. Help me add it to my -5. That's -27,000. -27,000 is where I'm at right now. So I paid almost 50,000 in mortgage. Let's even assume that if I was renting, I would have still paid my rent monthly. Okay, let's leave the mortgage aside. This is to tell you that if I did not buy my house, I would not lose my $27,000 in closing cost. For those of you that are always looking at Zillow, now when you go and search my house on Zillow, you see bought at 357, sold at 385. Those things deceive you people. You be like, see the money she made. She didn't make any money. Those things deceive you a lot. At the end of the day, that money is a huge loss. That thing you saw was a huge loss because people pay for closing, both buying and selling. So now I know better. I would rather put my money in investment property like fix and flip. And if I'm doing investment property fix and flip, if they bring any property to me to come and buy at 200,000 and they're telling me, oh, it has the ability to sell for 270, take your property away. I don't want it. 70,000 is rubbish. By the time you pay closing costs during purchase, by the time you put money to fix it, by the time you are selling and you pay another closing cost, don't forget, closing costs during selling is 6%. You pay the seller's realtor, you pay the buyer's realtor, 3% each. You'll be at negative. That 70,000 is nonsense. The minimum you're looking at for a fix and flip property is 100,000 minimum. Unless you have your cash to buy the house. If you have your cash, 200, 300,000, and you have your rehab cash too, That means you're looking at about 350, 400, depending on the area you want to buy the property and depending on how much rehab you have to do. Then it's not worth it. Because the people that want to borrow you the money too, they're already eating you up. So let me not go too much into fix and flip property. That's a lesson for another day. Anybody that have questions about that, they can reach out to me and I can do a video on that on a different day. So back to home ownership. You pay money, you pay your mortgage every month. A little fraction of your mortgage goes to your principal, which is going to add up and become the equity you have accrued over the years. And I tell people now, if you want to buy a home, make sure you are going to live in that house for at least 10 years. If you're not going to be there for 10 years, forget it. It's not worth it. Just keep renting and be saving your money. Be saving the difference between your rent and the mortgage they already told you after they ran your numbers. This is the reason. Let's assume in this current age and time, only 11% can go to your principal. That is the best you can get. 11% goes to your principal. Let's cap it at 10% goes to your principal. So let's assume you're paying a mortgage of 3,000. 300 goes to your principal at an interest rate of about 7%. 300 goes to your principal. If you calculate 300 times 12, that is $3,600. Times 10 years, $36,000. All things being equal, home prices are pegged. They are not going up again. They are not going to go up. Just know that and know peace. Those of you that are waiting, that I want houses to crash, they are not going to allow that happen, because if it happens, it means that is recession. People are going to lose their homes. And I don't think Trump wants that to happen in his time. People that are saying, I want interest rate to crash before I buy my house, it is not going to happen. For interest rate to crash, that means home prices are going to go up. For home prices to go up, inflation will get worse. So interest rate is never going to crash. Know that and know peace. So if you want to buy a house in this present economy, just assume that your house is not going to gain any equity apart from whatever you pay in. So I'm not talking about people in Johns Creek now. Johns Creek, Alpharetta, Suwannee, some part of Duluth, some good part of Duluth, some good part of Lawrenceville. These are places that no matter what happens to other places, they will still be standing. But Johns Creek, Alpharetta, they are not only standing, they are floating. So if you own your homes there, you are good. You might not lose money, you might not make much, but you will not lose money for sure. And you don't need to wait for 10 years before you make your money back. So for other people now, this is for you. Let's peg it at 36,000 for 10 years. Let's assume that your house was 300,000 loan. I don't know how much you bought your house for. After your down payment and everything, 300,000 loan at 7% interest. This is the analysis. So you've paid 36,000 out of 300,000. That means you have 264,000 left that you are owing. 264, you are owing 264 after 10 years. Let's now assume that, okay, there's no matter how a bad reach, let me speak that pidgin for you. No matter how a bad reach, your house gained 30K equity for 10 years. 30K equity. If you want to prove me wrong, go and check the reality of equity gaining before COVID. Because people are making the mistake of using COVID to judge real estate in America. No, American real estate is not what you think. It doesn't just rise anyhow. There's a control. There are people that control that market. There are appraisers that control that market. You cannot, every other person cannot be selling their houses for 350 and you be like, because I have jacuzzi in my own, it must sell for 400. It's not going to happen. Somebody listed this house in my street then for 515 when houses were selling around in their high 300s and low 400, and you want to sell your own at 515. If you see the way they bring that house down anyhow, you will pity the person. If you see the house very beautiful, I'm sure it is a confidence in that beauty that the person used to list that house. The same thing happened to me. I listed my house at 415 because I did work there. My house was beautiful. But there's a control. This is not Nigeria where you can do what you like, where nobody is controlling any prices. There's a control here. This place is organized. So go and check the market before 2020. Before people started saying money they did not work for and putting anyhow prices on houses. If you check the market from the early 2000s up until 2020, you will know that it's possible for your house to be 20 years old, and you are the owner for 20 years, and you've not gained more than 30,000 in equity. Some people even dropped, some houses even dropped. They didn't gain, they dropped. Because me, anytime I'm checking houses on Zillow, I check their history. So you gain 30,000 in 10 years and you've paid 36,000. So let's assume that you sold that house for whatever you bought it for, plus the 30,000 you gained. You will not use that same almost 30,000 that you gained to pay the realtors, the two realtors. Don't forget, in your 10 years of living in that house, you have probably fixed a lot of things. You have paid HOA. HOA is never part of your mortgage. It's a separate bill. And what is your gain? Don't forget the closing cost you paid during buying. You have to take it out of that 30,000. So definitely your 36,000 that you paid into your principal is going to be reduced. So whatever cash they will give you after they take out your loan balance of 264,000 and they want to give you your 36,000 that you paid plus the 30,000 that you made, they will remove realtors money of about 20,000, lawyer kinikon. They remove all those money. So whatever you'll be going home with will be around 40,000. You paid in 36. You paid about 10 or 11,000 when you wanted to buy it. So if you remove that 11,000 from the 40,000 you are going home with, you have 29,000 left. 29,000 left. And you have paid 360,000 over 10 years in mortgage minus maintenance cost. So do the math yourself. Does it make sense? So I always tell people, now imagine that you did not live in that house for up to 10 years. So this is why I always tell people, make sure you're ready to live there for 10 years before you sell it. So this is why I always tell people that now imagine you did not live in that house for 10 years. You only lived there for about 2, 3, 4, 5 years. You will not be able to accrue that 36,000. The 30,000 equity you made, you will not be able to make it. So that means that assuming you stay there for 5 years, you've only paid in 18,000 into your principal and you paid about 11,000 closing minus 18, you're left with 9,000. Although your 18,000 is coming to you cash because you already paid that cash in principal. That 18,000, assuming you made 10,000 equity, or let's even say 15,000 equity in 5 years. Assuming that you put 15,000 equity in 5 years, that 15,000 plus another 7,000 from your 18 is going to go to the realtors, and the remaining 11,000 was what you paid during purchase. So it makes no sense. If you know you want to buy a home in this present economy, I'm not saying don't buy, but if you will not live there for minimum of 10 years, do not buy it. If you know that you are going to retire in America and you have nowhere you're going, yes, buy it. So that by the time you are old, you will have a home that is already paid for. That is if you still have 30 years on your side. You have a home that is already paid for, and the only thing you worry about is your insurance and your taxes. Those two things, and HOA. Those are the only 3 things you're going to worry about. But another question I always ask myself is, How will someone that is already 45 years pay off their house before they retire? How is a 45-year-old person going to pay off their house before they retire? Because the way the mortgage is choking now, you cannot double it. You already have a choking mortgage. How are you going to double on that mortgage? Because every time I ask people that question, that you are so age, how are you buying a house of 30 years mortgage? And they be like, oh, if I can pay one extra payment per year, if I can double my payment. Really? A payment that you're already choking on, you want to double. A payment that is already not convenient for you, you want to make extra payment. If you can afford it, definitely, why not? If you can even afford it, why are you doing 30 years? It's better you do 15 years and exit the loan fast. So, I just thought to bring this topic to you. From everything I have said, you should be able to ask yourself, is it a blessing or a curse to buy a house in this present economy? Please do not use what happened in 2020, 2021 to determine to make your decision of home ownership. Come back to the reality. The reality was before COVID, and the reality is back, dancing in front of us. Be realistic. Forget about what happened in those 2 years and face the reality. Is it worth it? Renting is not throwing money away. Renting is for the roof over your head, is for the comfort, is for your sanity, is for your spontaneous decision making of changing location, is for not worrying about maintenance, is for all those things that you can think of that home ownership is not going to do for you. So renting is not enriching your landlord. Renting is paying for a service you are getting. I hope you have picked your own from this little sermon of mine. If you like my video, please like, comment, share, subscribe, please. I'm going to be bringing a lot more your way. Subscribe. And I appreciate you for coming this far, for watching it. Thank you. Have a good one. Bye.